911, what's your emergency?
I'm freaking out. I can't stop watching these videos. This guy won't let me turn it off.
Sir, what are you talking about?
He's this big bald guy. He's raising his hands up in the shape of horns. What is that about?
Oh boy, we've got a code 666.
What the hell is that?
Mother, man.
What is up, everybody? Here we are doing a live. I got my boys, A.R. Hayes from A Convict's Thoughts and Lee from A Devil's Advocates. Great to have you guys on with me tonight. And I think we're going to have a little bit of fun and talk about something serious, but we can still do it in a way that's enjoyable because we got a group of people that want to hear us talk. So that's awesome. How AR, how have you been? How have you been doing, man? I know you're dealing with some heavy medical stuff, but whatever you want to share about that, dude, go for it.
Each day it's getting better and better. As you can see behind me, they finally let me out of my cell here in the Idaho Maximum Security Penitentiary.
Oh, shit. Oh, yeah. Wow.
I've been
working
playing
hard dominoes out in the day room. Are you playing dominoes in the day room? Is that what it is?
Yeah, I'm just out here tormenting Brian Coberter. It's not that big of a deal. They let me out for a couple hours a day. You know, I mean, this is what we do.
You share a vent system with that guy?
No, toilets. We do the toilet work.
Oh, fair.
What about you, Lee? How are you doing over there in the Northwest?
Busier than I expected. I've got a lot of irons in the fire, and I'm getting
you're retired, man.
Like, right? Wow. I'm retired, and I'm busier than I have ever been in my entire life. So yeah,
I hear you, dude. It can get nuts. I'm not quite to that pace yet, but before I got sick, I was going like full throttle. It was nuts, and I'm thinking like, man, what am I doing? You know, I'm supposed to be retired.
Yeah, I don't think my old boss would appreciate me telling people on YouTube that I actually work harder now than I did when I was working for
him. Right? That's funny you say that because I've had the same thought. Right. My former boss and I still communicate. He's a good friend. When I moved out here, I had no family, around me. So his family was the owners of the company I worked for, and they kind of took me in as a little person out of, fish out of water and kind of just good support channel. And when I had cancer, he was so good to me. He took care of me. And even when all my time, my vacation time, my sick time, all that stuff had run out, he still took care of me. So I didn't have to worry about stuff. And that was huge, to not have to worry about that. And just like my last bout with the necrotizing fasciitis and the leg amputation, I had the VA had my back, and they've been just absolutely unbelievable. As a matter of fact, you see some plastic up behind me. I had the crew started today on my bathroom renovation.
Oh, I thought you were going Dexter on us with some plastic sheeting behind
you. I could. But no, they're doing the bathroom renovation that the VA is paying for because my bathroom on this first floor is not accessible by wheelchair. So the VA gave me a grant to use and paid the contractor, and they've just been unbelievable. I can't say enough. They'll be done, they think, Wednesday, but I'll be able to after a year. I'll be able to take a shower, which is just unbelievable.
It's been necessary. Lee and I have been begging for the day.
I know.
I mean, we're a long ways away, and you need to take that fucking shower, sir.
Yeah, just right. In there. The minute you get the chance, hop in there, Pete.
I know. It's like to think of that is just really gross, But I took kind of a half shower at the hospital once. But the problem was they were like wrapping me in like saran wrap because if I had open wounds, and it was just not, I mean, the lady sure gave it a try, but it was not a shower. And then when I was home between the two situations, I think I took a shower or two, but I still have, to this day, I still have open wounds from all of that. So it's, it's difficult. So I'm just going to sit in there. I'm going to turn it up as hot as I can stand it. And he's getting me a sit down shower too. And so I'll be able to sit in there, and I'm not coming out until the hot water is used up. I'm not going anywhere. So I can't wait for that. That's going to be awesome. But that's what that plastic is, if you wondered. But I like the Dexter idea, though, better. It's a little cooler,
I mean, it is a little bit more thematic for the show.
It really is. It really is.
If you could share some of that hot water, I've been asking the warden here for a long time for some hot water.
Oh, shit.
And a little more than an every other day opportunity to shower. So if you could put in a good word for me, it'd help me out.
I'll try. We're getting a lot of love here, guys. Got Pitbull Mama saying hi, Pete. Hi, AR, and hi, Lee. That's awesome.
Hey,
it's nice to see the crossover between our channels with people that, we all have as core people are also, interacting on each other's. And that's what the whole purpose. When I got on YouTube, that was the first thing I tried to do, was to reach out to the other creators. That's how AR and I met when I interviewed him. And I interviewed all, Lucky. I interviewed people that I admired the way they did, their channels, in hopes that, we could interact like this. So it really has worked out better than I would have ever imagined. So yeah, AR's been a good friend. I mean, you talked me off the ledge. I don't know how many times at the hospital when I was going batshit crazy, being locked up. I was locked up, AR. Pretty much. I mean, I couldn't leave the room, and it was ridiculous. So, other than random times for PT and stuff, but anyway, but nice to see some love here. Thank you guys, Nikki and Nikki Taylor, Pitbull Mama, Voice of Astrology, Karis. I think that's how you pronounce your name. You sent me something by email, but I won't say that you did unless you let me know that it's okay. But she did something very nice, and I appreciate that. But she's a huge supporter of the show, or the channel, I should say. But it's just people really liking the having us together. So I think that's great. The rules for the live, I mean, basically, the way we operate, I know AR and I are that way, and I'm sure Lee's the same, is we just don't tolerate the BS. We got Donna Lembo. I hope I haven't seen yet. I haven't gone through the whole list, but Donna Lembo is she's my commandant for knocking people right out, cutting them out at the knees when they act foolish. And Catherine S., of course, another one. And I've got a few that can do that. So we're just not going to tolerate it. So if that's why you're here, you just need to go do something else. Go watch, baby farting videos or something, but not this. Okay. And like Lee said, I liked in your video you did today, you talked about, people, parental warnings and stuff, which I was going to tell you, that's not a bad idea. Maybe before you do something that's kind of gruesome, but there's Donna Lembo. Thank you, Donna. Whenever on the podcast, whenever we talk about, this gruesome, I mean, really gruesome, much worse than I talk about on here. And we laugh and say, we don't put warnings on anything. Because if you're going to listen to a podcast called Murder, Metal, Mayhem, right, and you've got an issue with me talking about that kind of stuff, then you're a damn fool.
Yeah, I
It's
had
stupid.
mixed emotions because I had somebody that showed up at the beginning of that live, and it was a special on, Rex Heuermann and about serial killers that kill in tandem or parallel. And I was breaking down killers that kill together, And somebody came on at the beginning of the show, and they're like, "I'm so excited! I just became a sub of yours, and whatever." And then like 10 minutes in, they're like, "Oh my God, is it always this gruesome on his show?" And I'm like, first of all, no, it's not always this gruesome. But second of all, we are talking about a serial killer tonight
Right.
specifically. So what did you kind of expect? So I felt bad. At the same time, I'm like, well, isn't it kind of implied if you're talking about a serial killer, it's going to be a little bit maybe morbid? I don't know. But yeah. So that's why I kind of
look around too, Lee, Pete. I got the same thing. People come to my channel that's called A Convict's Thoughts.
Right.
And they say, why do you talk about incarceration? Why do you talk about prison? Can you read the title for 2 seconds?
Yeah, I actually went to your channel the first time because I was looking for some gardening tips.
Yeah, well,
I thought A Convict's Thoughts would be a good place. Yeah, I mean, that's a good point. It's so stupid. All three of us run into that, and I'm sure you too.
Right, and I drop a lot of F-bombs. So when I was asking people, like, do I need to put a parental advisory label in my corner? Because first of all, I'm going to drop an occasional F-bomb. I'm going to make an off-color joke. I'm going to make a sexual innuendo. It's who I have. I've been that way since I was freaking 6, So I'm not going to stop that. But I don't know. But like I said, maybe it helps if they know that there's a particularly gruesome night coming. Like if you're going to be talking about somebody, well, I won't get into it again, but details about how a killer kills. Right. Maybe we put an advisory on it. I don't know. I'm still thinking it.
Yeah, I mean, I was listening to a podcast. I can't remember what it was. It's a good one, but it's pretty PG-13. And they were in like episode 200 and something, and they were doing a cannibal. And they were making like a big deal about it and warning after warning after warning. And they were saying like, wow, I can't believe it's taken us 200 and something episodes to finally get to one of these cannibals. And I was laughing because Murder Metal Mayhem, I think we did 4 in the first 20 episodes we did. We were going all out because that's actually how I started Murder Metal Mayhem. I'll give you guys a little funny behind the scenes. I was at a cookout, I officiated a wedding. Okay. I used to do that. I don't do it anymore, but I did. I officiated a wedding. The only reason I don't do it anymore is because everybody I've wed was divorced. So I'm just not good at it, I guess. But I was at this wedding and a buddy of mine was there. And we were talking at the reception afterward, and we got talking true crime. And he brought up Joe Matheny, which is absolutely brutal. The guy that murdered and then ate his victims, and then also ground them up and sold them on his roadside barbecue stand in in Baltimore. And I mean, just absolutely vicious, And we were talking about this just like we were talking about a football game. And this guy that was sitting next to us got up and walked away like he was like repulsed.
Yeah.
And I told Chris, I said, dude, I think we're on to something here. I think people might like hearing us talk about stuff like this. And that's what started it. So
there's an irony, sir, that somebody getting up and walking out of the room is your sign that you're doing something right.
Exactly. Well, when you're into heavy metal, you're used to the looks of disgust. That's actually a thing.
Yeah.
When you're wearing a heavy metal shirt, you get the look of disgust from somebody that's like older or just not into your thing. It's actually like a badge of courage. It's good.
Yeah.
It's like,
I get it.
I'm cool. All right. Well, good. I see my mom in here. My mom has been dominating the message or the chat room. And, the intro I did, my mom's asking about the intro, and Brooke here mentions the intro. I've been scrambling them up. So the one that I just played before this was the very first one I did with my home health care worker who was in the house helping me around here. And I said, hey, you ever been on YouTube before? And she's like, what? I put a mic in front of her and I'm like, just read this. So she killed it with the 911 operator. But that was the first one I ever did. I love doing goofy stuff like that. I get people that say, oh, they're too long, blah, blah, blah. It's like, whatever. Just bump it ahead, if you don't want to listen to it. It's not that long. They're like a minute, but people are just assholes sometimes. But nonetheless, the one I played tonight was the very first one I did. I've done one with Lee and then me and AR. AR, I got a great premise for the one that I want to do with you. I've got it pretty much fleshed out, and I'll get with you because I think it would be really funny. So, and I want to get Lucky to do one if he will. And I'm thinking about doing some contests here on the channel for people to win a chance to be on an intro with me. And I think that would be fun. So, very good. So yeah, the one I'm going to do with AR will be really funny, but the newest one is the one in the delicatessen. But the one I played tonight wasn't. All right. Very good. So we're here to talk about the Idaho 4 tonight. We kind of bounced around what we wanted to talk about. I know that, I've been kind of weaning off it a little bit, just like I know Lee is, and AR, I know you and I have talked about it. I mean, there's only so much you can cover with this, but we felt that there was enough material still relevant to talk about it. And so that's why we're doing that topic tonight. And so if you're new to the channel, subscribe if you're not already subscribed. I encourage you guys, and I'll flash their handles up here in a minute, to go to the other two guys' channels, Lee and AR, and go and give them some love if you're not already subscribed to them. And all three of us have memberships on our channel, so you can do all that. So there's that. And also, real quick, I'm doing a new show called Serial Killer Story Hour. It's Tuesdays at 7 p.m. Central, and doing the obscure serial killers. We've done Joel Rifkin, and then this last Tuesday I did Harvey Glatman, the Glamour Girl Slayer, and the next one I'm going to be doing with a Canadian friend of mine, and we're doing Alan Legier, who is a Canadian serial killer, which is a good story we did on the podcast. So it's going well. So, if you're into that kind of stuff, go check that out. And then I got new merch. I've got a Teespring page all set up. I'm like really close to being done with it, but I've got the Murder Metal Mayhem logo. I got T-shirts, hoodies, tank tops, a tapestry, pillows. I mean, coffee mugs. I mean, it's crazy how much stuff you could do with it. And I'm also designing a Horns High Club shirt right now. So if you're in the Horns High Club or the Mayhem Squad on the channel, I'm going to have shirts just for you guys. And so that'll be really cool. So if you're into it, caps and hats too. Yeah, it's crazy, all the opportunities on Teespring. But I will post that tomorrow in the group post on the channel. So if you're interested in some merch, it's cheap. They got like the T-shirts because they price it. I don't price it. $16, which is really good for a T-shirt, and they're great quality. I've ordered several shirts myself. So yeah, there's a lot of stuff out there. Somebody's asking if I heard of Fred West. Are you kidding? Of course. Fred and Rose West out in the UK, for sure. For sure, I've heard of that. All right, so we're talking about, for the Idaho 4, the issue about BK in prison, and we're hearing all this stuff. I mean, it's really crazy, all the stuff that we're hearing about him being harassed and all this kind of stuff. And since we've got AR Hayes on with us, who knows all about that because he's in the channel, The Convict's Thoughts, right? So I wanted to get AR's opinion on that because I know you've done some videos here. Wait
a minute. Are you saying that AR is going to talk about convicts? What the hell is that about?
I know. I thought it was gardening. Apparently,
yeah. It's not a gardening show?
Yeah, I thought for sure I was here talking about soil and dirt. What the hell are you talking?
Right.
I'm completely confused. I mean, but all right, I'm down for it. Let's do it.
So what do you got to say, AR, about this whole fiasco?
You know, the first thing about, like, I've taken some heat back in regards to my discussion about the people relaying this message out there. If you want the truth about something, if you want to learn something, you got to go to sources that have actually been there and done that and been around it. So it gets frustrating for someone like myself when I see these mainstream media narrative push that's been happening now for 3 years in every different angle. But now they want to start speaking upon as if they know the prison system as well and what's happening within it. And it's like you're getting your sources from Daily Mail and these other written who maybe reach out to somebody or reach out to a employee of the penitentiary, and they're not going to give you what it's really like within the prison setting. And for someone like myself, and I'm not toot my own horn, but I've been around the block. I've spent a lot of time in these stupid places, wasting years of my life. But I learned a lot, and I know what the politics are. I know the facilities. I've been in J Block. I've been right in the very building on the very rows that Brian Koberger is on. I didn't spend a lot of time there because I was in transport, but I've been right in that building. So I know what that building is.
And you've been in the Latah too, right?
I have. I spent time downstairs in Latah County where they got the 4 max cells separated from everybody else. It's called segregation for a reason. You're segregated.
I don't want to get ahead, but I wanted to ask you a question about that very specifically, because I remember somebody said, Koberger was excited about going to Kuna, and he's like, I don't think you're going to be happy when you go to Kuna, kind of thing. So what was your perspective on the difference between, Latah's jail, small thing, and Kuna system, and whether Koberger would like it or not going to the bigger system?
Man, the two jails are just an extreme opposite of the spectrum type of jails. Boise's jail is unreal, man. It is violent. I don't think people understand that. Even on the minimum side in the dormitory, it's a violent place. Where Latah County, when you get downstairs where Brian Koberger was housed, you're kicking back. There's only 4 cells down there. You got your own TV on the wall, even though now, when I was there, I didn't have a tablet. That's new to me. Like, I didn't get tablets, guys.
Right.
It didn't matter whether I was in jail or in the penitentiary. I never had that privilege. So when I did jail time, I didn't have any form of TV, no radio, nothing. The only thing I ever got to see was when the guards would turn the TV up on the wall and they controlled the channels. And for most part, when I was in Arizona, Sheriff Joe Arpaio, he would put it on the court channel where you watch just the federal courts talking about laws being passed. Nobody wanted to watch that.
AR, did inmates have any say on what got played? I mean, you said the guards made the channel decision, but did the people get to say, "Hey, we want to watch this," and there was a discussion at all, or they just flat out there was no input and the guards just
when you're in a lower setting, let's say minimum or medium type setting, which in a medium you still have violent crimes, you still have the bigger crimes in there. They don't have the risk factors to put them into segregation or into those types of places. So they come into the normal everyday pod. And yes, in most places in jail, you can let them know what you're looking for to watch. Like in most of the jails I was at, we had cable, we had USA, we had TNT, we had various different things. We could watch football on the weekends, and we could make a request within the pod for what we wanted to watch. But I'll tell you what, the decision makers of the pods typically won out on what got watched in the pod. It wasn't, the little guys like me that didn't have a very big voice when I was younger that got to pick and choose. But in segregation, it's a much different type of situation because you're in your cell and the TV's not. It's out on a wall, and they dictate within the master control. The guards will dictate what you watch. And if they want to change it, they will. If they want to leave it, they will. Whatever they choose to do, because I mean, they just kind of ignore you. When you're in segregation, they ignore you, and that's what cracks me up about this whole thing with Koberger. Oh, Koberger's at his door. He's complaining. He's knocking on the window. He's doing all this. He's being terrible. Guys, the guards walk right by you. They don't give 2 cents about what's going on with you. They're not going to stop, take their time, write a report that you're being harassed.
Yeah.
And you can't sleep, and people are calling out to you, calling you names. They don't care. All they care about is your blood's not spilled on the tier when you go down to the shower. That's all they care about. But I'm going to do a whole series coming up of people that I know from Arizona. I'm going to show the violence that these places have. And I'm going to show real documented from the penitentiary violence that happens. And it's not being tormented or traumatized like they say Brian Koberger is. This isn't real, guys. It's not. It's a narrative.
It's funny because I got so many questions for you, and I have no idea where you stand on these things. But I watch shows from time to time. My wife used to binge on 60 Days In, where they would have people, civilians try to pretend like they're inmates, and I'm like, well, how do they pull anyone over on anybody when they got camera crews following you around inside the jail? You don't think everybody knows? But anyways, I was curious how accurate that is as far as the kind of the life that they do show on shows like 60 Days In. Do you have familiar with those shows at all to see whether you think they're just all production value or if it's some reality at it? Or
there's some reality, but it's not realistic reality across the board. They'll increment in small things to give everybody a little taste because they can snag you with that.
Right.
But the inner workings, I mean, jail is completely different from prison. The politics, everything about prison and jail is completely different. So they could never do something like that in prison. Mm-hmm. It would never roll right because prison it's a very dangerous place, even on the lowest of level of securities. Guys, I've had more broken bones and more fights on minimum security penitentiaries where people are literally leaving the yard to go to work than I have on the higher security. But then again, I've had my buddies lose their lives on the higher security yards in a heartbeat. So,
when I was working,
in prison. I'll tell you now, you can't.
When I was working, I would teach classes sometimes in prisons, and I did some a week-long class in a prison, medium security, and one guy failed the test, and he was mad, and he was about 10 feet from me, and he picked up a 6-foot wooden table and threw it at me, and then started running toward the front of the room, and the class basically tackled the guy and knocked him down and saved my behind, literally. The guards came in and stuff, and I was already done. They gave him the test and had him graded, and he just flipped out. And I just left, and there was like this melee going on behind me. I'm just like, this is nuts.
This may be
things can happen. It was not a walk in the park, even though it was medium. And, I know that it could happen anywhere. I mean, seriously. So,
yeah.
So that's interesting. AR that, I watched some Jumpsuit Pablo videos too, and he was kind of echoing what you were saying. He said that BK was talking about door kickers or something like that, and he was saying that they were trying to kick his door to drive him crazy, and Pablo's like, no, that's not what a door kicker is.
No, and you know what? Look, is there noise in the penitentiary? Yes, constantly. Constantly there's noise. You got inmates on the run that are, one, trying to get the guards' attention, two, trying to call all the way across the pod to their buddy in another cell. There's always yelling going on. There's always something going on. There's a 10 to 10 rule, though. 10 p.m., everybody shuts up. 10 a.m., it gets quiet. You can start to make noise again. But where people need to realize is where Brian Koberger is housed is not the little boys. These are the shot callers of Idaho's prison system. This is where they put the segregated inmates that lead the affiliations. They make the decisions for the gangs on the yard. These are the decision makers, the big boys. They're typically in there because people have lost their lives or been viciously harmed on yards. I was in segregation because I was known for bringing electronical devices onto prison yards, meaning I brought in cell phones almost every week at visitation. I was able to get a new form of device onto the yard. So they had to segregate me away to ensure that I didn't continue to find ways to get these things in. And
You were like Red on the Shawshank Redemption.
I was just a troublemaker, man. I really was. Like, there's
He
people.
was the guy who could get anything he needed.
I'm having Christopher Walken flashbacks of keystring things. Keystring, I got to teach you about keystring.
Yeah.
And here's one thing: I never had
wallet.
Never had to keister anything.
Well, good sir, good sir.
Man, I would go to visitation in a pair of Rydell tennis shoes, and I would come back in a pair of Air Jordans, and not a person at visitation would say a word to me.
Right.
I would come in with both shoes filled to the maximum. Whatever you think you could put into the sole of a shoe, I found a way, and nobody said anything to me. As long as it wasn't on my person, when I stripped out.
You literally just brought back a childhood memory. Get this. I can't believe I forgot this story until you told me. I was with my dad and my mom. We went and visited my uncle who was in prison. My dad wore a fancy watch into the prison to give to him as a gift. And I called out as a little boy, "Dad, how come you gave your watch to him?" And he's like, "Shut the hell up." And I'm like, so smuggling things into the inmates in that room. That's something I remember as a little boy. I was like, "Hey Dad, how come you don't have your watch anymore?" Hilarious.
Well, I know, AR, you did a panel on the podcast. We talked about false confessions. And my buddy Tex, who's a prison guard down in Texas, and he did death row. And here we got somebody that was in the chat. I saw this, and Michael Cowell, or Cawell, I'm not sure how to pronounce that. But he says, here in Illinois, I work death row. They sent us back there to feed them, clean the gallery, etc. Worst time ever. So
this gentleman on my channel left a few comments, and extremely respectful. I can tell he's real. He knows what he's talking about. He served a good amount of time. I haven't had the opportunity to converse with him very much. I would love to. I really hope he would reach out to me. I'd love to talk with him, but very knowledgeable. And see, I have buddies right now sitting on death row in Arizona. I have a buddy sitting in the very pod where Brian Koberger is housed right now. I know the systems because once you become a part of the system and you get moved around, you get to know people who know other people who know other people, and you just kind of get intertwined. And I'm glad that my life has changed, but that doesn't mean I could just walk away and forget. So when I see these people talking about like a door kicker, let's answer that question real quick.
Right.
A door kicker is not, they're walking by Brian Koberger's door, kicking his door. That's not a door kicker. A door kicker is a person, an inmate within their own cell that continuously kicks their door to get the attention, to piss off the guards and other people around. So to me, I watched the other day, someone was doing a show. It was on YouTube, and they were doing a 360 view. I think it was Evil CJ, and they were doing a 360 view of the Idaho penitentiary. And I want people to understand, like, when I come out and say these inmates aren't hooting and hollering and acting stupid, that doesn't mean they're not making noise. But you also have to understand, Lee, if you and I and Pete get brought in by the warden to do a tour of the penitentiary, and they're walking us through the maximum security area of that penitentiary, every inmate in there is going to go off and act a fool because they want those people to recognize them. They want them to know, like, hey, we're being mistreated. Hey, look at our surroundings. Look at what.
Yeah.
It's known that when these people come in for a tour, you go to ape shit. You just go off the chain. You start disrespecting the women that walk in. You start doing whatever you can to get attention And the minute they walk out, you go back to the normal of you're writing your letters, you're doing your drawing, you're doing whatever.
Yeah.
But while they're on your run, you go ape shit, especially when a warden comes in with a camera.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah. Come on, I'm putting on a show. I mooned a couple.
Right.
I did all kinds of stuff when I was.
Well, I had to work.
Way of acting, you know.
I had to work in a women's prison, which I think is actually worse. I've been in both. I think the women's prison was worse with the screaming and the cussing and the foul mouth, just awful. But anyway, I was working in the prison and I went through the Sally Port and they tore apart my van. They were mirrors under it and everything to make sure I wasn't bringing anything in. And in my stuff that I needed for this job I was doing, there was like a regular camera. And the guard looked at it, and I had the paperwork that the warden signed off, or that somebody signed off, that I could have the camera on me. And while I was in there about 2 hours, and all of a sudden we heard a thing over the radio about a code, whatever, and I asked the guard, I'm like, "What's that about?" And he goes, "I think it's about you." And I'm like, "What the hell are you talking about?" He says, "Somebody says you got a camera." And he's like, "Why didn't you say anything about it?" I'm like, "What are you talking about? The warden said it was okay. And like, I got this paperwork here that says it's cool." And they marched me out of there like ASAP. And I had to come back another time to do it. And I had to go through another channel to get the camera in there. But yeah, it was no joke. I mean, they were, they hustled me right out of there. It was no questions asked, just get out. And
I have to say, unfortunately, I have never been a bad boy. So my only tour of the jail has been when I signed up for a criminal justice thing to have us take them to the tour. But it was funny because when they were taking us through and we were talking about the men's side, they said, "Oh, you don't need to worry about the men's side. It's the women's side. They're crazy over there. It's the women who are the biggest problem in there," because they said they do vicious things. Like, and that's what somebody was saying in the chat. They're like, "I think the women are more vicious." And that's what they were saying at that jail too. They're like, "It's the women's side you need to watch out for."
They are across the board. In the penitentiary, they calm down a little bit, but within the jail, you don't want to go over to the women's side. What I understand. Yeah. I mean, I haven't got to spend much time on the women's side of the jail yet. I'm working on that. I'm working on it. But
my dad
I'll
was a parole officer
that's here in front. But I also just want to reflect one last little bit that I could add in regards to Brian Koberger, where he's at right now. And these reports, they're just now, it's one after the other. They're coming out discussing what it's like for Brian Koberger. Is he in a good situation? No, he's in prison. This is a bad place to be. Across the board, he's in a place where people, do they catcall people? Yeah, you're brand new to the penitentiary. You got a brand new DOC number. You're a fish. You're brand new. They're going to let you know you're brand new. They're going to tell you that. They're also going to heart check him soon. So if you hear anytime in the next few months that he's been in a fight, just remember I said it. Brian Koberger will be in a fight very soon. It's going to happen. The guards will let it happen. They'll pop the doors. They'll mix up how they get to the cages for rec or whatever happens. And Brian Koberger is going to get heart checked. And we'll see what happens. Can Brian Koberger hold his own? Maybe Brian Koberger whoops the other dude. I don't know. Maybe the other dude gets the better of Brian Koberger, but it's coming. Right. It is coming. A white boy's going to get his hands on Brian Koberger, and we're going to see what happens. But that doesn't mean here's minimum, medium is a transitional facility. People are going home. People out of jail leave to go home every day. It's transitional. And here's where I take offense to people talking about these segregation units, acting as if this is Clownsville. This is called home. It's not transitional. These people are doing lifetimes. So when someone like myself hits this area, and I'm not doing lifetimes, I'm going home at some point, they treat me differently because I'm an outsider to them. Brian Koberger's not an outsider. Brian Koberger's a lifer. This is home for Brian Koberger. He's going to get cozy. These people aren't going to scare him off this run because there's nowhere else to take him. He's not in protective custody. He's in with the worst of the worst. These are the shot callers. These are the beasts of the penitentiary. Brian Koberger's in the mix now.
Right.
So if he's complaining, maybe. I don't know. I doubt it.
You know, it brings up some things that I heard about Brian Koberger, because somebody mentioned, Brian's a boxer. I wonder, I've heard some, I don't know if you heard this guy, but there was a guy that came on, said he was a friend of Koberger's back in the day. And one of the things he kept saying about Brian Koberger is Brian Koberger's a giant pussy. Like that he couldn't imagine that Brian Koberger did what they said he did, because he said, this guy's a pussy. I'm telling you, he can't hurt anybody. He's a coward. And so then you mix this thing. Okay, well, if he did what they said he did, is he a coward or is he a tough guy? Or was he, if he did do it, did he only do it because they were drunk, defenseless, sleeping, and it was easy to take him out? Will he stand up to somebody if it's a fist fight kind of thing? And the boxer story, apparently he just went to the gym for physical labor. It wasn't for learning how to box. He was just there to work out at the gym, may not have even used a punching bag for all we know kind of thing. So I always kind of go back and forth. Is Koberger the kind of person who will be able to defend himself, or is he just going to flat out get his ass killed in prison or beaten so bad that, that he's just terrified the rest of his life running,
You're going to find out quick. This is going to be tested quick. Let me tell you, when I went into the penitentiary, I was young. I came from a very good family, a religious family, a hardworking family, but they taught me how to work. So I was strong. I was athletic. And added to that was kind of a mental issue of the way I was, brought into the world with a bad, adoption and foster care. So I was already an angry individual, even at a young age. And that showcased I was in a fight every other day. I'm not saying I was a beast or I won all these fights, but I would fight my own parents. Like my dad and I in the hallway of our home, my mom, I feel bad for her today. She had to cover holes in the walls of their beautiful home because my dad and I'd be throwing punches.
AR, can I ask you, did, like in prison, like you got in fights in prison or in jail, right? Were you an instigator? Would you say you're an instigator? Like, do you mouth off to people, or did it just come to you whether you were looking for it or not, kind of thing?
No, I was definitely not an instigator. I was far from it. When I got into the penitentiary, I was a nervous wreck. I was scared. I started to realize this isn't the place I want to be, and maybe I don't even need to be here. Like, God dang. But it became, I got heart checked and I held my own, and people laid off of me at that point because I had proved myself, which will be up to Brian Koberger to do. He's either going to do it or he's not going to do it. If you don't do it, you're screwed for the entire sentence. You're screwed. Because if you don't stand up to it, they're going to constantly do it.
Right. Like I would imagine, and you can clarify, I would imagine if you at least make an attempt to defend yourself and you at least hurt the other guy in the process, you're probably going to earn some respect, right? But if you just lay down and take it and cover yourself up and turtle up and take it like a wimp, you're in trouble, right?
You don't even have to hurt the other guy. Show the balls that when somebody approaches you, you're not going to walk the other way. You're not going to raise your hand trying to get out of school.
Right.
At least try to throw a punch. We understand. See, and that's the thing. I worked my way up, Lee, in the penitentiary. I didn't stay on the lowest level. That's why, I worked my way into even more difficult of situations with affiliations and getting to know certain people and things of that nature. Politics.
Yeah.
That's a good way to say it. Politics of the penitentiary. But they knew immediately what type of person I was, because the minute that first dude walked up, they could tell I was nervous. They could tell I was scared. They could tell I was unsure. But damn it, if I was going to back down, like, you're going to get me, but you're going to get a piece of me when I get got. And the respect factor at that point came, and then it kind of eased. But then, man, and that's the next step for Brian that he's got to be careful of. Once you prove your worth, then they can use you. Then they bring you a little closer. They start teaching you a few things that benefit them, and then they expect more of you. See, I was just a pissed off individual, and now you put me into a setting where I'm locked down all the time, so I'm just getting more angry. And then I would have people come talk to me and be like, hey, you want to take out some of that frustration? We really need this handled. Are you down to go over there? And yeah, hell yeah, I'm good. Let's go. And I wish I had said no. Like I had earned the opportunity to say no, but instead I kind of crumbled into the let's please these people. Let's make life a little easier. If I make them happy, my time gets easier. And if Brian Carpenter falls into that trap, even though he's a lifer, that's what makes it even more difficult, is now you're a lifer in a trap of doing this for so long. And the very people he's housed with right now, that's why they're housed the way they are. And that's why I try to tell people, like, they're not focused on harassing Brian Carpenter. They got bigger things on their plates, man. These are the decision makers for all of the races within the penitentiary. The West Coast is very racially segregated. That's the best way to put that in a term that's not, too bad. It's racially segregated. You run with your race, but you have decision makers within your race that dictate the politics of your race. And Brian Carpenter's going to have to learn that. And I'm going to do a video series on what it's like to come into the penitentiary and be taught what those politics are. Because if you mess those up, you get messed up. Like,
yeah, I'd definitely love to see that, AR. And we've got a viewer here, been up here in a bit, but I wanted to ask you this. Cheryl E. Fitzgerald says, I'd be curious what AR thinks of Jumpsuit Pablo and his content. Is it accurate, sensational, or what? I know I like what he says, and he seems like a pretty good dude. What do you think?
Jumpsuit Pablo has done 2 hands worth of years completely across the United States from me. He's East Coast. I'm West Coast. So the majority of my time has been in the West Coast politics, very racially segregated. A lot of the East Coast is not that way. So the way he presents things and the way that he puts it out there is different than what I personally have experienced. I know that way, but it's not what I've experienced. So when I look at it, I have to question some of the things he says too in my mind and go, that's not what I know. That's not how I know it. But then I also have to give him the credit that I haven't done time where he's done time. And I know that his experiences and his politics that he learned and followed were quite different than mine. So I give him absolute respect because he's come out and he's one of the creators that I see as being very honest about his situation. He's laid it out for people to know what he is, what he's been, what he's about. And I respect that because I see others, and I don't want to utilize names, but I see others that have become fake. And now they don't even want to acknowledge the fact of what they were, but you have to understand what you were made you what you are. If you've become successful out here and become what you are today, it's what you were that was a stepping stone to get you there. And I think Jumpsuit Pablo's done an excellent job of utilizing what he was to get to where he is. And I do find him more on a comical side of things. I think he's an amazing storyteller that utilizes experiences to tell his stories. And I'm a little more raw than he is, I think. I think I'm a little more, like, I'll tell you just the way it is in the penitentiary, whether it's bloody, whether it's a fist fight, whether it's bringing in, things through visitation, whatever it might be. And he wants to, I guess, maybe storytell a little bit. And that's why his channel is approaching 500,000 subscribers. Right.
Yeah, he's done very well. But yeah, not, like we've said before, not every creator is for everybody. I mean, Lee is just a fire and brimstone kind of guy. And Lee, you've been talking about on your channel, getting into back to the Idaho 4 discussion of these crime scene photos, and kind of a letdown for sure. And I actually went back and looked because I couldn't remember, it's been so long, what the Manson crime scene photos look like.
I did look at those recently again.
I was like, oh my God. I mean, there's that
What a
one of
difference, right?
Sharon Tate covered in blood,
Yeah.
laying on the floor right where she was slain with a noose around her neck, and she's 9 months pregnant, and you could see pretty much everything.
Yeah.
Now, I'm not saying I need to see that, but I'm just saying, like, a couple of droplets of what could have been friggin' red paint for all we friggin' know. I mean, it's ridiculous. But what did you have to say about that, man?
Well, at first I was thinking, well, the first thing I thought was the same thing. I had an officer, a police officer, 20-year vet in New York NYPD that said, that's not the crime scene photos. That can't be. That doesn't make any sense. And I'm like, you're right. Like the wounds that they told us the individual suffered, I saw the crime scene photos, and I'm like, that doesn't make any sense whatsoever. And I don't know what to make of that, to be honest with you, because again, I'm not one of the grand conspiracy theorists that think that it didn't happen or that it happened somewhere else and the bodies were drug in there. I don't necessarily go down those roads, but I'm looking at those photos and I'm just like, what am I fundamentally missing? Because that can't be what we see in a crime scene of the nature you're talking about, where somebody's, and again, morbid warning, right? When somebody's face is so mutilated, the officers can't tell what they're even looking at. I just can't. I mean, head wounds bleed like a motherfucker. You know what I'm saying? Like,
right.
I just don't fundamentally believe the lack of blood. That's what's the hardest part for me on these crime scene photos. Right. And we haven't seen any. At least haven't seen any of the gruesome photos. All I've seen is some blood spatter on the wall, on some blankets, which do not even seem indicative of somebody who had an artery cut.
Right.
It doesn't make sense to me.
Yeah, that's why I did the thumbnail I did on that, which it said the title of the thumbnail was I've had cuts shaving bleed more than what I see in these pictures.
Right.
I mean, seriously. I mean, I've had some nasty cuts shaving this dome every day. Boy, when you cut, I mean, it bleeds like a pig, and it's hard to get it to stop.
Yeah, I literally, like I said, I had a police officer say he's seen fist fights with way more blood than he's seen fist fights with more blood than what was in that place.
Yeah, I mean, if Ethan had an artery cut, it would have been sprayed all over the walls. I mean, it would.
So at the end of the day, what does that mean? What does it mean and it doesn't make sense? What are your thoughts? I mean, what could it possibly mean that's what the crime scene photos look like?
That the whole thing is bogus. That I don't think that it was as bloody as they said. I think if it was, that the 911 callers would have been like, oh my God, there's blood everywhere. There's no way you would have mistaken Xana for sleeping as compared to being butchered unless you couldn't see, unless you were blindfolded and went in there. But even then you would still smell.
And that's the thing, like, I read the book When the Night Comes Falling by Howard Bloom, and he talks about the responding officers who were walking through a sluice of blood on the floor. They immediately knew something was wrong. They were walking through blood. And I'm thinking to myself, then again, where is that in the photos?
Right.
Like, how do you walk through a sluice of blood? Which, when I hear the word sluice, I'm thinking there's there's a quarter inch at least of blood on the floor that they're walking through, and yet nothing. Where's that blood in the photo? I just.
And then if that was the case, then why is that one cop in the picture just walking around like, he's at a yard sale or something? And it's like, dude, this is a crime scene. What the hell are you doing? Put some Tyvek suit on, the booties, the hair.
I feel like I'm in the Twilight Zone.
I mean, wouldn't you go into a crime scene as a detective, or even a cop? I mean, you gotta keep your DNA and your hair out of the crime scene and not pollute it. But these guys seem like they just were like, like I said, it blows my mind. But what are your thoughts on it?
That's the whole thing. This is one of the areas I've stayed pretty clear of, to be honest with you. I personally, I didn't want to see crime scene photos. It's just not something that's in me that's necessary for me. Like, I get it. I understand it. I know it tells the story. our good friend Lucky did a great video that the photos don't line up to what we're being told in regards to the case.
Right.
Well, none of the documents so far in the investigation line up to anything we've been told about the case. So I personally struggle in describing it because I think that, I mean, first, what they say? There's like 250 photos or something like that through
Yeah.
the state side of it, right? Through Idaho, that's what they have. It's like 250.
Yeah.
How many have they released so far?
Like
Does
20,
anybody know? Huh?
like 20, I think.
So, I mean, they're obviously holding back quite a bit, and we know that they tore down the house. And I don't want to, I don't want to jump over to things I just don't know. But from the few that did show up in my, people email us, and we open those emails, and all of a sudden there's something in front of us you weren't expecting.
Right.
The bed that supposedly Maddie's, to where somebody would have been pinned up against, from what we've been told, the back wall, fighting for their life, and a devastation of the face and the head, and literally there's no blood anywhere.
Right.
And then you want to present that to somebody like me that's watched a guy get boxed up in his cell, just fist fighting it. And dude, it took him 8 hours to come in and wipe everything off the walls and the roof and the floor. And it's like, that was just a fist fight.
Yeah.
And
It just fundamentally boggles the mind how that can be the crime scene. I mean, even if they're withholding the worst of the photos, which I can get, the photos that they have shown, I don't know how you would hide the amount of blood that would have to be visible. There's one photo that shows a significant amount of cast off or blood spatter on the walls, but it's not to the extent you would expect for what you've been told the wounds were. So
if I could ask both of you real quick, just a question. Can they, but even if they can, is it legal for them to go into these photos and do more than just blurriness? Can they actually manipulate, change those photos for our viewing? I'm not saying what they would have presented as evidence at trial, but for us, when they release them, can they, because I've had somebody say they discolored certain areas, they changed certain things within these photos to conceal some of that within the photo.
I'd like to take a stab at answering that. So yes, I do believe, like a television station, for example, would be within their rights to gore down the scene a little bit and try and disguise it, and maybe even use some AI to clean up the picture a little bit and make it, and they probably would be able to get away with that. Now, if you're filing a Freedom of Information Act request and you're getting actual photos, those are not going to be altered at all. The problem is people say that it's illegal to share those when you get those. Like if I make a request and I get those photos, I can't necessarily go on YouTube and say, here's the actual pictures that they should have showed you, kind of thing, because there's some kind of obligation of me not showing those as well. So at the end of the day, what's going to have to happen is some independent journalists, and this is what sucks, they're going to have to go out, they're going to have to get the photos themselves that are unaltered, and they're going to have to tell you, and you're just going to have to trust them, whether you trust their integrity or not. Hey, look, I looked at the photos, and I'm telling you, the photos you saw on TV have been altered. This is, and it just sucks because on the one hand, I get what you're saying. Like, we don't necessarily, everybody doesn't need to see graphic blood and gore to know what happened, but by the same token, some of us, not because of morbid curiosity, because we want to understand what happened, we want to see it for ourselves. As much as I don't want to see it because I can't unsee certain things when I see it, I have to see it because I want to see it with my own eyes and say, yeah, that I get it now. I saw it. I get it.
Right.
I can put to bed all the rumors that they were not killed because I just saw it. I just want to see it for my own eyes. And I think those photos, to go back to what I said at the beginning, I think those photos probably have been edited and probably legally they're allowed to, I would imagine. But again, if you request the FOIA request and you get it yourself, they'll be unedited photos.
Yeah, I would agree with what you just said, Lee. I think that as taxpayers, it's our right to see them. But whether we can disseminate them, like you're saying, that's a whole different ballgame there. But that's interesting. And then we got a viewer here, Glenn, weighing in on this. Lee says a sluice gives abattoir vibe. So an abattoir is a slaughterhouse.
Yeah.
But what, I know you know that, but to the viewers.
Well, that's my thought, is like, if it was, and maybe, here's the thing. to play devil's advocates, because that's what I do, maybe Howard Bloom was just simply wanting to do some creative license with his writing, right? It may not have been as bad as Howard Bloom said, but he wanted to paint this story. So he's like, oh, they were walking through a sluice of blood. Was that direct, a quote from a police officer that talked to Howard Bloom? Or was he doing some creative writing because he imagined that's what the scene was? Because there's a lot of stuff Howard Bloom did that I think he just flat out made up. Conversations that happened between Kohberger and his father in the car, for example, that Howard Bloom wasn't there in the car. And I don't think he interviewed his father. So he just made that shit up, so I don't know.
Well, I'll tell you, just based off of experience, when I was younger, my parents owned apartment complexes in New Mexico. And my job was to clean these apartment complexes when people moved out of them. That was how I earned my little bit of money, in high school. So in the middle of the night, a tragedy happened at one of my parents' owned apartment complexes, and we were notified that it was going to be a massive cleanup in a couple of days. A tragic murder had happened in the unit, throat cut in the bathtub, in the living room. And so, of course, my parents, not knowing what to expect, said, hey, AR, you got to go, in a couple of days, you're going to be put to work. You got to clean up this apartment. So I, got together with the maintenance workers, and we entered into that apartment. Now, need be, there's no body. There's nothing left evidence-wise in the apartment other than the remnants of the disaster. And it was stomach curling. You have to turn back around and leave. I mean, I had never seen anything like it. Literally looked like you took paint cans all throughout that apartment, just throwing red paint all over everything. And this was legitimately just a knife fight between a husband and a wife. Yeah, I mean, it got bad. He cut her throat, and there was devastating wounds. And that's what, when I think of this crime scene, you got 4 people. You have 4 people with what's deemed to be a single weapon, which it can't be, but let's say a single weapon that's being utilized throughout 2 floors of this home. There's going to be a massive.
And I have to say something, and I want to warn the viewers that what I'm going to say is going to sound a little graphic, but I've watched enough crime shows in my life, true crime shows and stuff like that, to know that officers oftentimes, imagine this, these officers are walking into a crime scene that's 8 hours old, right? And you got bodies that have been mutilated to the point that the officer, as his own words were, couldn't even tell what he was looking at.
Right.
There's lots of officers who will lose their cookies seeing that. They'll admit it. They're in shock from seeing it. And you have a physical, visceral reaction, and people they gag. There's all kinds of stuff that happens, and it leaves fluids. You know what I'm saying? So what I'm saying is the weird part is no officer came into that scene that's been sitting around for 8 hours, and the smells and all the stuff that's coming there, and then you're seeing somebody horrifically mutilated, and nobody puked, nobody lost their cookies on that. They just kind of like, oh, well, I guess we'll move on to the next room. What's that look like? Oh shit, like there's something that doesn't add up.
That's a good point.
Like there's a lot to that.
You got to remember too, it's not just blood that's coming out of these bodies.
Every fluid. Yeah.
Yes, absolutely. You're right.
Pitbull Mama says, why didn't the beer pong table get knocked over? That's a damn good question. That 6-foot table is one of those flimsy tables. I have one on my porch when I have a cookout, and I use my grill to set the hamburgers on it. But I mean, Ethan or anybody if they were fighting, like they said, Kathy Mabbitt said there was a fight going on. Steve G talked about the fight, and all this stuff of defense wounds. I mean, you'd be knocking stuff over, glass breaking. I mean, those rooms were small. Those rooms were small. They're like 10 by 10. Maybe 11 by 11, but not very big. And you got to imagine, I mean, even a medium-sized attacker, if you want to go with the sole attacker theory, even one person doing that with one other person being attacked is going to be making a holy mess in that room. And there's no way that picture of Maddie's room with those boots, there's no way in hell that went on in that room, because as small as it was, you saw about half the room in that picture. and there was virtually nothing other than a couple of drops.
Yeah, and not to nitpick it to get to death, but again, if at least two individuals were fighting back, there's furniture that's still upright. People would have been flailing, they would have been fighting, shit would have got knocked over. The crime scene is ridiculously organized for a fight happening. I just don't get it.
That's why I want to ask both of you too, and I would love to know both of your opinions on this. When do you think Brian Koger finally actually engaged Xana? We're being told that she came upstairs, potentially finding him in the commission of the crime. I don't think she made it all the way up, because I think she would have known what was happening 3/4 of the way up those stairs, and I don't think she's coming all the way up and coming around a corner to look in the door. Yeah. When did Brian realize Xana? I mean, I think Xana screamed. I think there was noise. That's just my opinion. I don't care what people say. Well, Dylan didn't hear that. Well, whatever. Yeah. She screamed. Xana screamed. All women would scream if your buddies are getting slaughtered in a room and you don't know what's going on. But where do you think he actually caught up and engaged her? I personally don't think she made it all the way to her room before that happened. I think he had to have engaged her prior to that. Otherwise, she would have made a left turn and ran out of the house. She didn't. She ran directly to her room, which means he's attacking her that whole way.
He would have had to go right by that table. Yeah.
The tables don't survive.
Right.
I'll tell you that for me, I'm still not convinced Koberger did it alone, and I think if there was a second assailant, Xana never even went up the stairs. I think she was. I think there's a good chance she was attacked simultaneously, and that it was happening on 2 floors at the same time. That's but I can't prove it, and we never will be able to prove it because Koberger said he did it all by himself. But my basic answer to when did he catch her? I'm not sure that he did. I think she could have been attacked by a second person at the same time on 2 floors.
Yeah, my gut reaction is that they were all rustled up, and held in the living room there where that table was, and gagged and done for. However they did it, a 22 in the back of the head, something like that. Whatever, it wasn't bloody, or if it was, they did one hell of a cleanup. And then they cleaned everything up and then set the table back up to make it look like it was just naturally there, not thinking that the cups being in perfect order would look odd in a murder scene where there was a fight going on for their lives. So my opinion, I think that they very well could have been off altogether in that living room, which would make a lot more sense. You'd have full control over what's going on. You get everybody's phone, so nobody's calling anybody. You gag them, and you do it one after the other, and then they staged them in those rooms. And that's why those rooms don't look like anything happened in them, because nothing did. They just threw them on the bed, and that was it.
The difficulty is, and again, this goes back to how morbid do we want to get with this discussion? I feel I'm queasy from last night having people go, "Oh my God, you were talking about some gross stuff," because this is going to be gross. But I think to myself again, and now I'm not a forensics guy. I'm not really a forensics guy. I just study the kind of stuff, armchair stuff. But I'm thinking to myself, there's a difference between the way blood flows when the heart stops beating versus when it's beating, correct? So right. if a person had been deceased, shot in the head, like you say, let's go with that theory for a minute. If they were shot in the head and the heart stopped beating and they're dead, and then somebody went and did some mutilation at that point, would there be less blood? Basically mutilating them post-mortem, if you will. So that's part of the question. If they were alive and the heart's beating and they're fighting back and their artery gets cut, I hate to be super morbid, but you've got the body pumping blood through the system and it's going to be worse. But if they're already dead, when you do some, this is a morbid conversation, but that would be maybe an answer to why we don't see as much blood as we should, is where the body is mutilated after they were already deceased.
Right, or outside. There's a lot of people that believe they were done outside and brought in. It would be very possible. I mean, you're in an area where everybody's a hunter.
Yeah.
Everybody's very adept at using knives, skinning deer, doing all that kind of stuff. Showalter, we know, is all about that. They all were, And I think that it's very possible. I'm not saying that this is for sure, but it seems like almost it could have been done outside and then brought in and staged like that. I mean, there's got to be some reason why there wasn't a mess inside. Either there was and they cleaned it up, or there never was, and they did it outside. I don't know.
That's just so much work, though, Pete. I mean,
I know.
bodies, and then the evidence that's left out. You don't have enough time to legitimately clean. I get it. I'm always open to hearing people's thoughts and their opinions and their theories, because I myself don't have the freaking answers. Like, I can't tell you you're wrong. You know what I mean?
Right. Oh, I know.
Lee, I agree. And Pete, I think we're in agreement. I truly feel there's well more than one person involved in this. And I believe the more than one person involved in this were also in the home when the crime happened. I don't believe this is a separation of some people are on the internet doing things, some people are this. I believe that the people involved were together in the home, and that's why you hear the statements, I'm here to help, I'm here. They were working to try to get themselves out of the crime scene in the best fashion they could, because this crime, if it's on a timeline, is quick. It's quick. I mean, this is, when I think of a crime like this, I shake my head and I say, this is not a 7-minute crime. I know. No. I don't give a damn what people say.
No, I don't think so.
And see,
7 minutes. No.
See, this is the problem that I have, because I think, when we both entertain the idea that it was more than one killer, this is the problem I have. Are we okay? And I'm saying this rhetorically, we in America, are we okay that a guy's going to say he did it alone when he didn't, which means that people who were involved in that murder just get to walk free, possibly even be coddled, told how much of a victim they are, celebrated for their bravery, if that was the case. And again, I'm not pointing to say that the people who, I'm not naming names, but the point being is that somebody out there, if this was a multiple person murder, is walking free. Right. And maybe even be able to be like somehow praised for how they were so brave or came near to dying or whatever, and may have actually been one of the killers and just walks away. Like,
in my response to that, and I'm going to throw it over to you, Pete, because you've been so patient. The quick response to that is, one, I'm not sure that the other person is truly walking free. They may not be walking, period. But even if they are, my gut feeling is very simple. They got one. And Brian Koberger, in my opinion, didn't say, hey, I did this alone. He just said, yes, I'm guilty of the charges. I'm guilty of these 5 charges. I want to take my plea bargain, which to me, look, if you're involved in a crime that somebody else is potentially involved in with you, and you're going to the penitentiary, and this is a little advice for people out there in case you ever get hemmed up or have a loved one that gets hemmed up. You don't say a word about the other person that could potentially be involved.
Right.
You just take your medicine, you duck your head, because you're going to the penitentiary either way. Either way, Brian Koberger is going to the penitentiary at this point.
Right.
If he was involved, if he's the main suspect, whatever it might be, you're going away, buddy. If you're involved in this in any way, you're going away. And it's best to do so with your mouth shut, because now you're not a snitch. You're not giving up information to hem somebody else up. But with that being said, I actually think on the flip side of that, somebody gave up Koberger.
Yeah.
I think somebody gave up Koberger. And the reason why I feel like that is I still want to know who online said you can find the person that did this in the Pocono Mountains.
Yeah.
Somebody gave up Koberger, and it wasn't Koberger. Like,
I wonder if it was Kopaka. I still am not sure about Brent Kopaka, and I feel he was swatted by somebody who wanted him gone because he could have told stories.
And that's what I thought AR might have been hinting at when he said maybe the guy's not walking anymore. It's like, well, yeah, if Kopaka was an accomplice and he's now dead, then what you don't have an accomplice to turn over. Your accomplice is dead. So it's a moot point.
Exactly. Fall on the sword.
That's
we had a viewer here, AR. I'm sorry. We had a viewer here, AR, that said that they thought you were actually doing this from jail because of your crafty background there. So your skills as a computer whiz is obviously showing. I mean,
well, I'm telling you, the warden let me out to spend an hour and a half with you guys today.
Wow.
Today I get more than the 1 hour out. So
I still don't understand how a gardener is so good at computer to do that in the first place.
I know. And your cell is very neat too, AR. I was going to tell you.
Well, I tried to keep it bare minimum,
It's a minimalist.
transitional. I want to go home soon, so I figured, why even buy any commissary? What the hell?
Good
What?
call.
So, what did while we're on this subject, AR? What did your cell? If we were to come into one of your cell, environments, what would we see? I mean, would we see?
Okay, so I lived in a cell just like the one behind me. This is very similar. And in the series that I'm going to do, I'm going to show you some of the exact cells where I actually did my time.
Nice.
I've been able to obtain some of those. I was in a single man cell for the majority of my time, but other times I had cellmates that didn't last very long. I was not good with cellmates because I'm very particular in the way I keep my cell. I wipe my floor down. You don't wear your shoes in. I was able to get paint and sealant from the maintenance workers that brought it to me. So I painted my floor blue, and then I sealed it with wax, and I kept it very spotless. I had everything you were allowed to have, probably because of my inner workings of what I was able to do on a yard and bring in from the outside. But I had my TV, the see-through 13-inch TV. I had my Sony, tape player that became a tattoo motor, but then they gave me another one. So I always had a tape player with cassettes. Lower yards were able to get CD players. So when I came down to a lower yard, I was able to get a CD, a Discman, and my family could send me CDs and books. My cell was basic, but very clean. I had my clothes folded like military on the shelves. I had my commissary in my closet on the shelves, kind of hidden away because I was running a store. So I had to be careful with the guards noticing how much, commissary I had at times. It was basic, man.
Yeah, that's
came into the
interesting.
cell, you didn't wear shoes.
Right.
I expected my cell to be quiet and respectful. I had a window to be able to look out of my cell.
I was stunned. I don't know anything about being in prison or jail, but I was stunned to hear you say you were able to paint the floor and get sealant on it. Like I thought that'd be like, no way that you can pull that off. How'd you do that?
It was disciplinary action. I mean, I took disciplinary action hits for that where I lost privileges.
So
but
it wasn't,
you know what? The thing about it, because I was a respectful inmate when it came towards staff, I didn't believe in disrespecting staff because I didn't want them to put any more heat on me, and I didn't want to make their jobs harder. It was just a give and take. They let me out of my cell to make phone calls when I wasn't supposed to come out to make phone calls. I got more showers because I was respectful. So I had some privilege. Like I did have privilege. And when I got that, I painted it in the middle of the night, and the warden was in taking pictures the next day around lunch. And they debated on making it come off of my floor, but then they allowed me to keep it because the warden actually respected the fact I kept my cell clean. So quarterly searches, things like that, where they had to come in and search my cell and do things to find contraband. My cell was one of the easiest to come into and quickly look through because I made it easy for them. So they let me have the privilege of having my floor. So on the toilets, you can't flush your toilet more than once every 5 minutes. So once you flush your toilet, you got to wait 5 more minutes before you can flush it again. I had maintenance workers come in that gave me an automatic flush, so I could just continuously flush my toilet, which is very nice when you're using the restroom in the middle of the night. And you got a cellie that's ate something that upset their stomach. Flush more than once.
I want to ask AR a question that came up in the chat because it was somebody that I know from my chat, and they asked some good questions. And you talked about it earlier. I think they may have joined the stream a little late, but they were asking specifically, if you can elaborate again, how was Kohberger going to be tested? You said he's going to be tested. They're going to put him to the test. Also, will there be any fear, respect on his part because he might be skilled with the blade, kind of stuff like that. Like what's going to happen, you think, how's Cobra going to be challenged and tested in prison to get that heart check you talked about?
So first of all, just because Koberger was able to commit a crime like this, there's no fear in the penitentiary. There's people that walk with fear in the penitentiary, and they're nobodies. They're not the ones that are coming to heart check you. The people with fear get heart checked, and if they survive that, they stay on the yard, they build little groups, and they got their buddies, and they go about doing their own thing. And you don't really have to be in fear unless a riot or something like that pops off. But Brian Koberger, at some point in time, he's going to be coming out for a shower. He's going to be coming out to use the phone. He's going to be coming out of his cell for a reason, and somebody else's cell door is going to pop open at the same time. And that's going to be guard situated. It's going to be orchestrated because people have pull. People have pull in the penitentiary. Prisoners have pull. They got money too, and things do happen. And doors are going to get popped. And people will approach, and they're not coming to talk to them. There's not going to be an exchange of, hey, how are you today, Brian? We just wanted to make sure you're okay. It's here come the gun. The fists will be ablazing, and they're going to see what's up. And
that kind of happened, I think, with Jeffrey Dahmer. A guard arranged for somebody to be with Jeffrey Dahmer alone in a room that he was mopping up, and he did him in for kind of thing. And so that kind of stuff.
I'll tell you what, I landed on a closed custody yard with the slider doors, just like the one behind me, and I hadn't been there a couple of days. Laying in my rack, and all of a sudden I heard my door cracking open. And I'm thinking, it's not chow time. It's not phone time. Definitely not shower day. I'm not going to rec. What the hell is going on? Next thing you know, man, I was getting pummeled. Broke my ribs. I mean, they beat the crap out of me. It was 3 of them. They beat the crap out of me. And I remember that they drugged me off my bunk onto the floor, and I was hurting. And all I could do was try to get back up because I knew I had to fight. I got to try. I got to get back up. And I was able to throw a couple of punches. They left my cell. I fell back down. My door shut, and the guard came and knocked later, about an hour later during walk, and he said, "You going to be able to clean up? You good?" I said, "Yeah, I'm good, man. I'm good." He's like, "Just don't go to rec for a week, man. Don't go to chow hall. You stay in your cell. We'll bring you your food. Medical will come to your door to give you your insulin. You're inbound for over whatever it takes." I'm like, Jesus, am I that bad? I ain't come here to look at myself. How bad am I? I think my face is rearranged. But it took me some time to heal up. But after that, I was good. I imagine you earn a little respect, right? You get your ass whooped. You don't point fingers. You don't say who did it. You don't tell the guards about it. You don't bitch about it. You just take your whooping and you're like, I'm good. I took it and I rolled over and I faced my wall until that knock on my door asked me if I was good. And I just nodded. I waved my hand. I was like, and when the guard told me, "You don't do this for a week," I gave him a thumbs up. Like, all right, cool, man. I rolled back over and I faced that wall. Man, I teared up. I cried.
Yeah.
This tough guy stuff, like, oh, they don't, man, I was hurting. I was scared. I was hurting. I didn't know what the hell just happened.
Yeah.
I just didn't want it to happen again. So I was like, all right, cool. And that, for people that think Koberger is just going to walk the line perfectly, no, that's not what's going to happen. I've never said that Brian Koberger is going to have it easy. This dude's going to get his butt handed to him. And if he wins the first fight, there will be a second.
Right.
There will be a third until they get their licks in on you and they prove they run this, not you. You haven't earned that. You don't have say. So if you win, if Brian Koberger gets the better of a dude,
there's something new coming. Yeah.
Very cool. Well, I'll tell you, this has been a great live. We definitely need to do this again. We here at Murder Metal Mayhem always limit the lives to 90 minutes just because they can get crazy. And we've had a good crowd here tonight. I appreciate everybody that's been watching. We still got a little bit of time. But if you've got any comments or questions, you want to throw them in the chat. We'll do the best we can to answer them, whether it's about Idaho 4 or something else related to true crime. We're down, so we got about 6 minutes or so to do that. But I want to remind everybody to please like this video, subscribe to the 3 of our channels, and just be part of the true crime community and get into other channels and see what they got to say. We're not the only 3 out there, but I think a lot of people like us just because we're real and we're decent and we don't get into the dumb nonsense and childish games that some of these guys just seem to gravitate to. So
yeah, and I wanted to say, Pete, thank you again for helping me out. You saw me as a small channel and you're like, I want to pay it forward to this guy. I was small one time and people brought me on their show and you did that to me. I want to thank you so much bringing me on with AR. AR was great meeting you. Like I said, I've heard so much about you, but I'd never spoken to you before until today. Fantastic meeting you. Thank you so much for sharing the screen with us all. It's awesome.
Awesome, dude. I'm glad I could do it. I know AR and Lucky, helped me when I was only, barely over 1,000 subs. They were out there giving me the time of day, and we did the interviews together and stuff. And I did see your channel. I'm not sure how I stumbled on it. I think somebody said something in the comments, and I watched one video and I'm like, there's no way this guy deserves to have 2,000 subscribers. So I reached out because I didn't want you to get caught up in the dumb stuff. And AR has been good to me about, hey, avoid this person, or I had some bad issues with this one, and I've done the same with him. We had a common person we had been working with or kind of looking to work with, and he kind of showed his true colors, and I cut him loose and helped AR avoid a problem with the guy. So, that's what it's all about, is the channels helping each other. I think the listeners or viewers, they like that too. I've seen comment after comment. Donna Lembo here says, this has been a great live. Can't believe it's over soon. It did really fly by. So yeah, Pitbull Mama, thank you all. I see somebody here referencing the Thought Riot. I missed that channel, AR. That's such a weird one. What do you think, Lee? That was before your time here on YouTube, but the Thought Riot podcast was great. And then all of a sudden they just disappeared. I mean, I'm almost wondering if somebody scooped them up in a van and took them out in the desert. I don't know. It's weird. I mean, what do you think, AR? Any word on that still?
Yeah, I mean, I know some of the stuff behind the scenes. I loved Thought Riot when they were out doing their work, and they were doing amazing. And look, they helped me. And that's one thing I want to interject too, Lee, is, we're here to support you. We're here to back you. Continue down that path of growth for yourself. We've both been there. Unfiltered Lucky's been there just like us. And I've had an amazing outpour of help from other creators. Even though I haven't exploded up in subs and things of that nature, I've built a very good community. And that matters most to me, is that community that just is respectful and loves each other and loves to talk with each other. And that's been so amazing. And Thought Riot, I mean, I absolutely miss their work. They were amazing. 2 very amazing people. And, I know they still watch from afar from time to time. And, I hope they're doing well. That's
cool.
Yeah, and along that lines, I want to second, anybody watching this show, and I know I'm kind of still, small fish and stuff like that, but I do want to pay it forward. It's funny. There's a person, I've got a big interview coming up with a director that does documentaries, and so he's really a much bigger fish than me, but his YouTube channel was like 200 and something subscribers, and I went, hey, I have a chance to help him launch his YouTube. So and you don't have to be a big name kind of thing. I'm looking for cool people that want to, if you think that I can help out your show and get you launched a little bit by having me on for a few minutes, and I know that sounds a little arrogant because I realize I'm not a big name, but I would be happy to pay it forward. These guys have done me a solid, help put me in front of their audience. I want to do the same for anybody else too. So reach out to me. Don't hesitate to reach out to me if you think that I might contribute to a little conversation with you on your show and help you get some viewers. So I
Yeah,
appreciate
all three of us are very approachable. If you're watching this and going, I don't know if I want to. Come on now. I put my shorts on the same way you do. I was gonna say pants, but I'm retired now, Lee. I don't wear pants anymore.
I'm Porky Piggin right now, to be honest
I
with you.
just
So it's all good.
refuse.
I'm
I
not
just
all that
refuse
approachable,
to.
man. I gotta go back in this cell, and I'm telling you, if you knock on my window, if you yell in my vent, if you say anything, the minute that door pops, we're going at it. I'm heart checking
I'm just gonna
somebody.
kick the shit
I'm
out of your
doing it.
door all night.
What a great way to end that.
I'm
That's
gonna
awesome.
kick that door all night. That's for sure.
I'm gonna be a window warrior in my cell.
That's awesome.
Well, thank you guys again for watching. It did fly right by. We're definitely going to have to do this again if AR's medical situation allows it. We'd love to have you back on, AR, and Lee and I and all three of us appreciate you guys very much. And if anybody is interested in true crime, you got plenty of resources right here that we're going to talk about other cases too. So don't forget to like, subscribe, and if you're watching on the replay crew, drop a comment, and we'll see you guys next time.
Thanks, everybody.